thank you for inviting me into your absolutely gorgeous home, might I say. Simply wonderful. Yes, do you mind... Do you have a cigarette? Wonderful. I've just been, frankly, a bit wired for the last several days. Doing what? Well, honestly, all kinds of things. But I feel like these days it really just feels like I've been on the run from the police. Yes. Quite a dreadful time for me. Well, it's a little bit of a long story. If you've got the time, I'll be happy to tell it to you. Okay, then. It all started, back with my roommates. You know the ones. Anne and Sammy. Yes, well, you know, one would think that coming from a similar background in a way, and working in the same location, different jobs of course, no one likes that much competition, that you'd get along quite swimmingly. And we did, for a brief while, certainly. And then things started to change a little bit. Yeah. Well, for example, I started taking up a bit of a romance. I know it's considered a little taboo considering I was still married, but I mean, everyone knew that we were separated. Obviously, we were living in different states, so I believed, as well as we agreed, that we would just more or less go our separate ways, not have to deal with an actual divorce on paper. So I started up my own little romance in a new place, new location, new me. Ah, how refreshing. But no, it wasn't meant to be, turns out. Yes, this absolutely lovely man, quite wealthy, a bit older than I was used to. He's in his 40s, 44. You know what, but honestly, a charmer, an absolute charmer, so charming, in fact, that he charmed myself and both of my roommates. Yes, who would have thought? Not me, I can tell you that. It was honestly a little bit upsetting to hear that type of news, you know, finding out that you're not the only special girl in some man's life. Some would say it could almost drive you crazy. But, you know, so I found out about this little affair, or affairs, that were going on, and it did get under my skin a little bit. What am I sitting on? You know what? This is mine. This is mine. Oh, why do I have it? Well, you know, a lady can never be too careful these days, traveling on her own, am I right? So I try to just carry something with me just in case, not that I would use it on anyone or any people in particular. Why would you bring that up? I mean, I think it's a bit strange that you don't carry a gun. I mean, it is the 30s after all. A woman has got to be prepared, but let's just not dwell on it, shall we? So, either way, so I found out about this little set of affairs happening, and, you know, one thing leads to another, and my roommates and I just end up getting into a giant spat about this one particular man. I said, of course, that I had rights to them because, as far as I knew, these women were having an affair of their own. How taboo, am I right? Sammy especially. I mean, granted, I did think for a small bit that her sexuality was a bit like a road in Rome. All roads lead to it, essentially. But that's neither here nor there anyway, so yes, all three of us were beguiled by this man, so we end up getting into quite the tizzy, and, things, it got a bit out of hand, as one would say, so I decided, after things kind of exploded, in a way, that I just wanted to get out of town, get some fresh air for a bit. Do you have any alcohol? Yes. Would you mind if I... Oh, wonderful, thank you. So I decided that, frankly, I needed to leave town. Oh yes, in quite a hurry, too. Well... honestly, sometimes we all just need to take a break from ourselves in a way. Yeah, so I rushed off to the train station. You don't mind, do you? Great. And there, it was a whole nother disaster. Can you believe it? Yes, well, apparently there was an incredible smell coming from my luggage, and it was covered in flies, and people were complaining. You know how they do anytime you're trying to get anywhere quickly. Something's always got to slow you down, you know what I mean? Right. So, either way, there begins to become this whole stir about, several of my bags that were getting a bit wet. No, not from rain or puddles or anything like that. It was blood. What was inside them? Well, that is a really good question. I will say, the bag boy, wonderful, wonderful lad. So very, honestly, quite polite, I must say, for as much of a hassle my bags were seeming to cause. Just absolutely charming little fellow. Anyway, so he thought there was a dead deer carcass in them. I know. How silly. Honestly, I was so embarrassed I felt like taking a long leap into a hard wall. I just couldn't. So, as I'm sure they need to do, they ended up calling the police and asking me, where's the key for this to open it up? But I had told them that I was planning on meeting my husband there, so I naturally just locked it and forgot the key, but I lost my head for a minute, and I told them that I had given the key to my husband and that he was going to be on his way, and I figured that would buy me enough time just to get the bags on the train so I could get going. Long story short, that did not happen at all. No. Instead, yes, the police came, but quite frankly, I just didn't have the time to deal with them, so I called my brother. Charming little lad, always is, always very supportive of me, always has been. So I called him and, told him that I needed to be picked up from the station. He inquired about the bags too. I will admit they were giving off quite an absolutely terrible smell. And anyway, so I said, let's just leave them here. They're covered in flies. They're the flies' problem now. So, anyway, we ride around for a little while, and he drops me off, and I've kind of been bouncing place to place for a little while now. Yeah. Oh, this. Oh, I didn't even tell you. Well, turns out that, especially with this thing, accidents happen, but sometimes you're doing your normal day-to-day business and gunshot wound. Yes, absolutely. I was trying to really honestly teach myself how to use it safely. Turns out that's not something you can do on your own. Honestly, this probably does smell pretty terrible too, I think. Yes, I think it's infected, almost certainly. I will have to go to the hospital eventually. I just, I'm trying not to leave a paper trail. Again, just trying to get out and get a little break for once. But that's just not seeming to go my way, really. The bruising. Yes, well, that was part of the tizzy with my roommates. Some of them can get quite violent, I can tell you that. A lot of self-defense on my part. I mean, you know me. I'm not a confrontational person. I'm not a violent person. Wouldn't act that way, wouldn't be that way, never have been, never could be. And yet, within those quarrels, I find myself just absolutely, fearing for my life because, granted, one of them was very sick. She's not really able to move all that much from her own bed, but the other, turns out once she really gets riled up, the other one just snaps right to. Who knew anyway? Yes, so they're still very tender. But I'm sure they'll heal in no time. So, anyway, I'll probably have to, report some of this to the police. Are you planning on calling the police? Okay. Well, if you agree not to do that, I will agree to just get out of your hair. Wonderful. This has just been absolutely lovely catching up with you, I will say. Simply charming. You just honestly have not changed a bit. And not that this would ever happen, but if for some reason you do need to end up, getting called forth to trial or something like that from me in the future, let's just call this a tit for tat, and you can just tell everybody about how much of a just absolutely innocent, charming, wonderful woman I am. Great. Well, once again, absolutely wonderful seeing you, and hopefully I'll be seeing you soon.